Guten Morgen. Dobre utro. Buongiorno. Ça va, ça va. This is Carlisle Speaks Wall Street, and we're going to do a quick little update on my job scanner program. I haven't done updates in some time, so I just wanted to give you guys a quick update to see where we're at exactly with the application and what comes next. This project is going to be bound for open source at some point, but I want to get it the latest version complete and released before I do that. So I want to show you a little quick demonstration of what it can do, and then I'll tell you what comes next from that. I got ballots. I got my ballots, man. This just came in yesterday, and I will in fact be voting. And I encourage every one of you guys to make sure you're voting. Of course, in the United States, of course, I know you guys are international. Bienvenidos. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the program. Stock market is looking awesome. I'm being sarcastic. Of course, I'm sure most of you heard that Donald Trump is he has tested positive for COVID, a surprise to no one. He hasn't been taking this seriously from the very beginning. Even now, months in, still refusing to wear his mask usually. Although our good friends at Fox News, interestingly, have scoured the archives and found every clip with him with a mask on so they can loop. So they're talking about him getting infected, and they just keep showing him with a mask. The guy who refuses to wear a mask. I think there's only been, that I've seen, maybe 3 times I saw him actually wearing a mask. And it's so rare that every time he does, it's a big deal and the media goes crazy. But I digress. He is a guy that is a high risk. He's older. He's got pre-existing conditions. A lot of people who get the virus actually do okay, even people like him. The main reason we've seen so many people that have not made it or not done too well is because it's a matter of the numbers. Even if you have a low percentage of people that actually have a really, really bad time, I forget the number we're at, but definitely well over 1 million cases. So a small fraction of 1 million that have a very bad time equates to a lot of people. So the reality is he might be all right, but we'll see. But in the meantime, this is adding to the uncertainty equation. So it's thrown the markets a little bit chaotic. Not too crazy. Could be a lot worse, but got some uncertain time ahead. I'm anticipating that this is going to continue throughout the election. This didn't help at all, which means for certain options traders, this might be a good time because of volatility is what they live for. And certainly very clever high frequency trading that has some algorithms that are very clever, shall we say. A lot of people are starting to move on to utilizing artificial intelligence, which I need to get back into. I haven't done much work with that in a while. I had started exploring facial recognition and things like that, but It's definitely a significant learning curve. You have a lot of it can get it's a lot of math, a lot of math and scientific concepts and things like that. So that's going to require significant effort on my part. Um, but anyway, I digress. So let's go ahead and show you with the program where we're at. And let me know if the sound is good or not. Is the sound good or not? Alright, medium, and here is the program. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do a quick run. Well, actually, first of all, let me show you the source data. So pretty much I went and I found a job description online, and I've put the information in this file. Now, in a future release, I want to make it easier to insert your job description in here. Perhaps a copy and paste. Maybe I'll convert this to a GUI-based application and have a window which you can just paste your text into for the job description, and then run it and get your results. But the current version right now, we're using a text file, very sort of crude because this is very a very new application. So make sure I can see the chat in case you guys have questions. So we're going to go ahead and run it. So we have the job text file with the job description. Now we're going to go ahead and run the program and see the results. Loading skills. So it has the skill data. Now it's checking the job description, matching against skills. So we got a score of 10 for Unix, 5 for Linux, 6 for SQL, 4 for scripting, 4 for Python, and it's going through testing, release, communications. It's looking through the job description for all these skills. Now, one of the latest features that I added to the program is the top ranking skill summary. So as you saw, there were a lot of matches in terms of it found a lot of potential skills that were referenced in the job description that matches our core skill set, because the skills come from a CSV file, which I did not show. Each skill is ranked by a numerical value. So it's looking for those skills, and then when it finds them, it's counting the occurrences of those skills, and then it's giving them a score based on the rate for each skill. Each skill has a rate which comes from the CSV file. So it found a lot of skills, and rather than plaster them all over the screen, like you saw it loading in real time, each skill score, skill score. But once it was done checking everything, you just get a summary. I don't need to see every single skill that was found, even if it was only found one time, for example. So these are the top ranking skills that it found in terms of the skills that had the highest score. So that means taking into account the rate of the skill and the amount of times you found the skill in the job description, these scores were the highest of the bunch, and it's from top to bottom. So it found mostly Unix, team, SQL, and testing. So these are the top 4. So now the job description has been loaded. A score has been calculated, right? So perhaps in future versions we can maintain a sort of skill score database or record, so that, that could be a flat file, or I'm probably going to implement some kind of database, which would probably make more sense, be more flexibility and opportunity to do some videos in terms of more SQL videos that I know you guys enjoy. But I'll probably have a database that will track this, so you can get a comparative analysis in terms of, so this ranked at 74. What's the average score of the jobs that you have scanned with this application? So is this higher score than normal, lower score than normal, pretty average? So that'd be good to give you sort of context, because 74, okay, that if I got a 74 in a test, I don't know if I'll be jumping for joy necessarily. I mean, you passed, I think, in most cases, but 74 is we need some context, right? So either way, it has passed this job description, saying that the program has made an assessment that the job description matches the core skill sets. So it looks like it has a good potential match. So after that, the next few functions are not complete yet. They're not functional, ironically, non-functional functions. So what happens is I just have like placeholders in here. Oops. So all it's doing is it's saying that it's loading the resume when it really isn't. It says resume loaded when it really isn't. It says writing letter when it really isn't. And then it says letter written when it really isn't. It hasn't done any of this stuff. These are functions that are essentially empty. All they're doing right now is saying what they did do. And for QA purposes, that's how each function was designed. Before the code was implemented, they just said what they were doing. So for example, job loaded was there before that functionality actually existed. Then I built the code to actually make it do what it's supposed to do. So you see the actual results of it running. But in this case, there's no code here yet. So all it's doing is just doing a print statement and saying, hey, this, that. So this helps in terms of QA. So when I start adding the loading resume part, I'll see loading resume, and then what comes next, I'll know, okay, just loaded the resume, for example. So now, if it was complete, I could say, you want to apply for another job? I'm sorry. Actually, it would be done already. So it already passed. So it already would have written a letter, and I could have a file that I could use to like generate an email of some sort. So now I can actually apply for another job if I want to, or I can just say, no, I don't want to apply for another job. And then that's it. So if we take a look at the code, we can see where we're at right now. Hope it's not looking too messy. I don't want to embarrass myself showing you guys my messy code. So we're doing the modules that we're using are CSV time, sys, and OS. So CSV to import the skills data, time I think for some delays here and there. Sys, I don't recall what I'm doing with that at the moment. And OS, probably running some kind of command line commands somewhere. So I've kind of put my workflow notes in terms of what the plans are and sort of checked off what's been done, what hasn't been done. And I don't know if this is the, let me see something. If this is the latest, let's see, git status. Git branch. Load job. Yeah, so this is the latest production. I mean, normally this would not be a production release as it's not complete. It doesn't do everything, but this is the latest version that is functional to the extent that it is functional right now, which is essentially it can load your skills, it can scan a job description and give you a score and pretend to do the final phase, which is the resume analysis. But it's functional. As you can see, we just ran it. But there is I have another branch that I've created, which I'm working on the latest feature that needs to be added to make the scoring a little bit more intelligent. So let's see, remove non-alpha. So I need to do, I haven't done that yet. So I want to clean up the job description, remove non-alpha characters, load job description into a list. So this actually has been done. Counting skill has been done. Pass fail job description has been done. So that needs to be updated. And it has in the version of the code that I'm working on. But this is a previous release, somewhat. like I say, testing release, not a production release for sure. So let's see, loading skills. So we load skills from this my skills CSV. See, we have our doc string here, giving an explanation of what's happening. So we open the my skills CSV with open read mode, and we're picking the specific fields that we want. And of course, the print statement, skills loaded. Then we have another function, which is load job, which is complete. As you can see, it's checked off there. Iterate through skills, count each skill, append to job dictionary, and then count and return total skill score. So that is good to go. It does print loading job. We are using global variables, so we're pushing this into the global space, not limiting it to the local space within the function itself. So they'll be available outside of this function. And my skills. So this is where I'm at in terms of the next step. In retrospect, I probably should have moved to the resume processing portion, because the functionality thus far works. I mean, it loads your skills, it loads a job description, it does a scoring, it does the assessment of pass or fail. So the only reason to do what I'm doing now is I'm essentially enhancing existing features. Right? So the features are complete and they work, they're functional in accordance with the design. However, I'm looking to enhance them. So I really think I should have moved on to the resume processing, so I could get to the point of having the entire program complete. And then once I'm done that, then look at enhancements in terms of making things better. So that will be future releases. So instead of doing that, I actually opted to, in this case, make one final enhancement to the scoring functionality. So, and I talked about this in a future video. One of the things I was concerned about is if a particular word is overrepresented, it can skew the results. So let's say, for example, the word team is mentioned 50 times, and there's no other skill that's found. That job is going to get a very, very high score, and that's kind of nonsensical. Why would you want to give a job a high score in terms of compatibility because the word team is in there 50 times? No other skills match but the word team, right? That doesn't really make much sense. That's not a very smart sort of design, sort of crude, shall we say. So one of the ways that I have a couple of plans to enhance that. The first refactoring of that would be, I want to implement I forgot the way I was terming it, but basically I want to reduce the rate for a skill. So for example, let's say I'm looking at team. The first 2 times I find team, I'm gonna give it the top rate that is dedicated to that particular skill, and then every time after that I want to have a reduced score. So the priority is to the first 1, 2, or 3 times that the skill is mentioned. They give it its full weight. After that, I want to sort of devalue it, because it's kind of like, okay, we found it a couple of times. That's a good indication that this skill is referenced here. So, I want to give some sort of weight to additional references to that, but I don't want to give it too much weight to where it's gonna pollute the rating of the job description. So, for example, like I said, if it's in there 50 times, the job is gonna rank very high, even though it may not have a lot of other skills at all. So what I wanted to do is introduce a secondary rate. So if we see, where is the rate? What's the variable I use for that? Rate. I guess I don't call it rate. What did I call it? My skill. See, loading skills. Loading job. Job score with open. Load resume. Nope, it'll be up here. So display max sorted. Lambda count skill. Holy moly, where is the rate? This is why it's good to have good notes in your code. I try to put as many notes as I can. Read job description. So let me actually start reading my comments here. Read job description in the variable. Count skill. Update, so count is go to next skill if not found. Rate for skill. There we go. Why didn't I find that in my search? I did a search for rate. Why didn't I see that? Rate. Okay, I guess my bad. I need to get my coffee, need to get my Java, but there it is right there. So I called rate. So rate is pulled from this list called my skills. My skills is created by my skills. Okay, so my skills is created by reading this my skills CSV and extracting these rows. All right, so if we go to my skills, so you have a list of skills and a score. So the number is the score for each skill. So when it's scoring, so it finds the skill a certain amount of times, it's going to multiply that rate by the amount of instances of that skill. So what I'm proposing is the first couple instances you get the full score. So let's say team has a score or a rate of 5. You have it 2 times, so it's going to be 5 times 2 is 10. The thing is, I don't want to go 15, 20, 25, 30, right? In terms of, I don't want every single instance of it to get the rate of 5. So what I'm proposing is you would rank it first instance 5, second instance 10, right? Total 10, right? You see team again, maybe give it a score of 1. So now it's 11. You see it again, now it's 12. You see it again, now it's 13. So future instances of that skill after the first couple become greatly devalued, so they won't have that much power to sort of skew the score, right? So that was my proposal. There may be some additional issues that I may run into. I would have to do a lot of testing with a lot of different job descriptions to see a lot of different scenarios, because I don't anticipate any skill would be literally 50 times. But if I do this system that I just proposed, if I give the score a secondary rate of 1 and it's there 50 times, that one skill is still going to get a very high score. It's going to get at least 50 points, right? So if that is a realistic scenario, then that would hurt my strategy. So there could be, it might make sense to do a cap. I don't think that's necessary, because again, I don't think any job description is going to have a particular skill a crazy amount of times. So I mean, if the score, if the secondary rate is 1, I mean, you could have a skill reference 10 times and you're just going to get 10 additional points. I don't think that's enough for me to be too concerned with. But worst case scenario, I can go below 1, right? I could go 0.5. I can go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So I can lower the secondary rate as necessary. But I still may want to consider, even though I don't see that scenario being realistic, I may want to consider maybe a cap, so that no particular skill can have a score higher than a certain number, so that no matter what scenario, no matter what job description, they could write whatever word as many times as they want. No particular skill is going to dominate the ranking system. So that would be a way to really address this, so that there really wouldn't be a possibility of having really dirty data coming in terms of a particular skill being overranked. But I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know if that's necessary. In future versions, certainly I'm not going to do that in the first version for sure. We want to look at using artificial intelligence and other methods, because I think I can make this even more intelligent, because obviously just looking for the amount of times a word occurs in a job description is kind of crude, shall we say. The existence of a word multiple times out of context as well, the value of that information is limited. So what I'm thinking about doing is adding logic that implements context valuations. So basically, I could see the word, let's say I can't think of a way I want to explain it, but I wouldn't just look at simply how many times a word is referenced, because the word out of context may not be relevant to what we're looking for. So for example, a job description may use a particular word that's relevant to you, but the context in which they're using it may actually not be. So when they say team, maybe they're not talking about team like teamwork. They're talking about a program called Team, which may have nothing to do with teamwork or whatever, right? But they keep talking about experience using the Team application, ability to troubleshoot Team, but they're saying team, and you're overranking it. So what I would do is try to implement some logic that would look for team in relation to something else that gives context. And the way that would work is I would have to give the program data to establish some kind of baseline in terms of, typically when team is used in the appropriate context as which we are looking for, it normally has certain context clues in terms of the way it's being used, words that are in close proximity, whatever other things like that. Maybe the sentences that include the word team usually have similar words. So I want to implement that kind of logic in a future release. Additionally, I want to implement a comparative analysis in terms of, basically, again, we're heading into the direction of introducing machine learning, basically. So I want to be able to introduce a learning process. So with machine learning, what you want to do is you want to basically create sort of a, let's call it a model. So essentially, you want to give, basically it's this learning process, right? So you want to give the program information that it can use to learn what it is that you're looking for. So for example, when I was doing the facial recognition, so what you would do is, if you want to teach the program how to match faces, you can give it a bunch of images and sort of teach it what are matches and what are not matches, right? So by doing that, so let's say for example you want to teach it how to identify someone who is a man, right? So the model you're creating is identifying a man, right? So you feed it a bunch of pictures of men, right? And then it processes these images, tries to look for patterns that it sees in these images of men, and then you can start teaching it further by giving it more pictures of men, now to actually not just to look for patterns, but to actually make a guess. So I've given you thousands of pictures of men, right? and you've done your analysis of patterns that you've seen in terms of the eyes and the shape, facial shape and whatever, and you have all these patterns that you've stored. Now here's a picture of a person. Can you tell me if this is a man? Based on the data from the images that you've sort of trained the application on, it's going to look for the patterns that it's identified as this identifies a man or not, and then it's going to look at the image you've given it and make an assessment based on whether it thinks it's a man or not, right? And that'll be kind of the testing process. So you look at how accurate it's being. So is it very accurate in terms of figuring out whether it's a man or not? If it's not accurate enough, then you need to teach it more. So you need to give it more images of men and figure out where you went wrong. So that's the kind of the basic principle. So I would want to implement this here. So you would want to feed the program a bunch of data to create some kind of model in terms of this is what relevant job descriptions look like. So a human makes that assessment of this is a really good match, this is a really good match, this is a really good match, right? Different job descriptions, right? Feed it to the program and have it do an analysis of obvious things are count all the words that are used in those job descriptions and see which words are ranking highest. Also look at sentence structure and phrases, and there's a lot of things, just to do a lot of analysis and try to figure out patterns of how these job descriptions look. And then in that future version of this program, what I want to implement is a combination of the scoring system you have now with the artificial intelligence models. So the scoring system will go in and do a very crude, how many times you see the skills, do the same ranking you see now, have the secondary rate. So exactly what you're seeing now happening as well. But the final score will also implement the artificial intelligence. So you actually go in and you do this analysis of the job description and you compare it to the job descriptions that you fed it in terms of looking at these different patterns, and then produce some kind of score as well. So you have the sort of the very crude word count scoring, and then you add to that the AI scoring, and then you get a final score, and then hopefully that will make this a little bit more intelligent in the future. But that's obviously a major enhancement that I will have to do. That's gonna take this program to an entirely different level. Well, it depends. I mean, it's we're doing analysis of words, so that should be a lot simpler than I would think doing image analysis, which is a lot more complex. So it might not be as complicated as I think, but it's certainly going to require some time and research, and that's a ways off. So right now we just want to finish up the secondary rate for the skills and then move on to the resume, which, as I pointed out, does nothing right now. So this is the resume function. This is my doc string, which is the goal. So it's going to load job history from resume into a list called resume, parse resume for years, companies, and skills, create list of lists, and then when it's done, well, then this is the actual what it's doing now. It just loads resume. We're creating a global variable resume, and there's the use of the time. We're using the time library that we imported earlier, introducing a 0.7 second delay there. And then this will be the writing of the letter, the final function, which is going to iterate through the match skills list, search each job for skills. Where skill exists, get company and year, create a response letter, and print the letter for the user. Probably do a print letter and output to file as well, but I will figure that out when I get to it. And that is where we're at right now. So I will keep you guys posted on future updates on this. Any questions, suggestions, please do comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. But on that note, I'm gonna go. Ciao. A domà. Vigets.